Do you ask your man to protect you? And if so, how do you ask for it? I'm going to let you watch this Matthew McConaughey clip, and he's been kind of going around recently talking about the importance of masculinity, which I really appreciate because he's using his platform to elevate the role of men and also honor women. And so I'm going to have you watch the whole thing just so you can kind of see what he's talking about. And then I'm going to take it apart and talk it through. If you're new to our women's school community, welcome. My name is January Donovan. I'm the founder and also teacher of this school. Our goal here is to give you practical femininity training so that you can live out every arena of your life and flourish. If you have your friends, bring them in. It's a free training that we offer here in our school community. And I want you to be able to comment, have a conversation, build really a community of women here that are intentionally growing. So let's dive right in. Here we go, Matthew. Sorry.
So I'll have to go into general mode sometimes, especially if it gets anywhere close to them disrespecting their mother. And I'll have to, have had that talk. But if I did not, and if I don't let this bother me, especially to my boys, if I don't let this bother me that you're being disrespectful to your mother, what am I teaching you about being a husband? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Every mother out there just said thank you.
So I'll have to go into general.
That is exactly what women feel when they hear this and they recognize that their desire to be protected is that relief. Why? And let's break this down. Because women have a innate desire to want to be protected, to want to feel safe. And when we feel safe and protected, we can relax. Our cortisol hormones goes down. We're able to actually assume our role as nurturer of our children, as nurturer of our spouse. But if we have to defend ourselves and somehow nurture and go back and forth in that role, that is going to be a hard thing to do. So why is this important? Because we need to understand how we are designed by God to be protected and why that allows us to be fully alive into our femininity. So I'm going to break and take this apart so that we can really see the gift that he is giving us by teaching us the importance of asking our man for protection. Okay, so I'm going to take it apart here. Here we go.
General mode sometimes.
He has to go in general mode. What does that mean? He's assumed his leadership when there's a sense of danger. Okay, he has to go into that general mode. What does that do to our hearts? It says, well, I don't have to be the one that's going to put my children back into their place. I mean, yes, we have to do that at some degree, with our children. But in this context where he's witnessing the disrespect of his children, we feel like, no, I know I'm cared for and I'm okay and I'm safe. Remember, when a woman is safe, she is able to nurture in a way that she can't when she's on protection mode. Okay, so he assumes his role, the masculine role of leadership that allows us to embrace our own femininity.
Especially if it gets anywhere close to them disrespecting their mother.
Especially when it gets anywhere close. Do you notice that it's not when they've done it, it's anywhere close? That really puts a woman's heart at rest. Meaning, not only am I safe when the danger is coming, you're paying attention to when the danger is approaching me. That emotional safety, that mental safety that a woman actually longs for is something that I believe God designed us for. And our husbands might not be aware of this. We need to bring that level of awareness to them because they're not, our husbands, well, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but most of the time, our husbands are not necessarily they're bad or they want ill will. They're could be just not paying attention to what's happening. So in this case, he's paying attention, but not all the time our husband's paying attention. Well, what are the cause of that? Maybe there's stress, maybe there's work that he's thinking, maybe there's other demands, but also because their frontal lobe doesn't have as much wiring as women do. We're paying attention to every little micro things. That's how our brain is functioning, and you can learn more about it. Dr. Amen actually talks about how our brains are just gender specific. We don't have a genderless brain, and women have more action in the frontal lobe that allows them to connect. So we can't get mad at our husbands. We have to ask for the protection that we need in these moments and bring it to his awareness instead of being resentful.
Mother. And I'll have to, have had that talk. But if I did not, and if I don't let this bother me, especially to my boys, if I don't let this bother me that you're being disrespectful to your mother, what am I teaching you about being a husband?
Okay. If I don't let this bother you, what am I teaching you? Maybe our husbands also have not had a good role model in their own lives, and we have to pay attention to that and be merciful and kind, that they're not allowing it to bother them. So let's just say your son or your daughter raises their voice at you or criticizes you, or just sort of like those sly comments. Maybe they're not paying attention because maybe that's how they were raised at home and that was normal. Our role is to understand that there's a standard in the way we ought to be respected, and there's a standard of communication that is necessary to create respect in our own homes. And so we might need to bring it to their awareness. What does that look like? We pull them aside and say, honey, I love you and I need you. I need you to protect me. I need you to make me feel safe when our children are attacking me, because when we're under attack, it feels like what? A lion is chasing us. And that causes us to feel stressed literally under a microscope. It feels like we are being chased by some predator. That's a reptilian brain, which means that it's not, when we're being chased by something that's scary, it's not the time for us to think about how can I make this home more loving? How can I nurture our conversation? How can I be more, intentional about the growth in my own marriage? So imagine if the mothers repeatedly feel unsafe by their own children because their husbands are not protecting them. She is then not capable or doesn't have the capacity to think about intentional ways to nurture her marriage, her home, herself, because she is under stress. Why am I sharing this to you? Because you need to just pay attention to your needs and have the language that's necessary to identify maybe why you're stressed. Because oftentimes women are stressed. They come to me. We have thousands of students in the women's school, and I say, what's the cause of it? There's multiple factors, and there's sort of the primary cause. Maybe it's finance, maybe their marriage, maybe their children. But there's a secondary factor they're unaware of, which is they don't know their self-worth. They don't know how to communicate the boundaries. They don't know how to ask for their needs. They don't know how to hold people accountable. But they're not necessarily aware of those needs that I believe God designed women to, but we are not taught and trained with the right mindset and skill set. So we don't know how to ask for it. We don't even know it's hurting us. Okay. It's like having a cancer, but we don't know it's hurting us, but maybe because we don't feel it because we're unaware of it. It still is impacting you when someone is disrespecting you, especially your children, and you're not defended, you're not being protected, or your husband does not defend you, whether he's aware of it or not. So you can bring that to his awareness, and then you can say, honey, here are some ways that you can, give you a code and say, that was rude. And you can, have a signal and say, I need you to protect me all across the room until he builds a level of awareness that that's not okay. Now, it's great if our husbands know it, but the truth is that our husbands have also had a deficit of training that maybe they're unaware of it. But secondly, you need to be aware when this happens. You cannot just think it's not a big deal when your children roll their eyes at you. Maybe they raise their voice at you. Maybe they make fun of you jokingly. Maybe they say something that's mean and condescending. You have to know when this is happening so that you can hold them accountable. When you let this go because you think, oh, what's the big deal? It's really not a big deal. What you do is you create a monster, right? Lack of boundaries creates monsters around us and within us. That's what we talk in the women's school. Why around us? Because when a person does not know how to respect you, then they are entitled to treat people with disrespect. And what happens is it escalates, and they're not aware of it. And they just start treating people with lack of reverence and lack of respect. But it also builds resentment, because if you do this over and over, day after day, and you're not speaking up against your children disrespecting you because you don't know your own value, or you're not skilled in your communication skill to ask for what you need from your husband, and then that then builds resentment towards your husband without you even knowing it, because deep inside you wish you were protected. So now you have to defend yourself, be in warrior mode, while and also being in nurturer mode. That doesn't allow you to live out your femininity in a way that expands your femininity, your capacity to nurture. So bring it to his awareness, and don't shy about the micro little things. Our children should know how to respect us, but they're not going to know how to unless we bring it to their awareness. They're not born necessarily knowing what to say, how to say it, how to say it a little bit better. In those micro moments in our daily, ordinary lives is where you teach them. And I say train them neurologically through the process of repetition. When they cross the line, if that's the case, with your husband's help. You cannot do it alone. I mean, the reality is that for single moms, they have to do it alone. And obviously, it's a bit more work, which we should be merciful and kind to those single moms. But it is challenging because you have to be so on, and you have to be in protection mode all the time. Vigilance is essential when you are a mother to the threats in your own home. And the threats in your own home could look a lot like disrespect, language that's inappropriate, sly comments that are sort of be funny, or just condescending tonality. You cannot tolerate those things if you want your children to be happy individual and adults. Why? Because if you tolerate it, they're going to think that the world will also tolerate it. The standard that you set as a woman in your own home will be their perception of the way the world is, whether we like it or not. Now, if they're disrespectful and they're rude and they're not very polite and very kind, people are not going to treat them well. They're going to rob them of opportunities. You're going to do a disservice to the opportunities that are going to come his way, because nobody wants to be around people that are entitled, that are disrespectful, that are rude. So your capacity to hold that standard here, right now, in the moment is essential. And yes, with your husband's help, this is such a team effort, but it begins with your level of awareness. That's why in the women's school, the first work that we do is understanding our self-worth. What is our value? How do we hold the standard of our value? How do we hold people accountable to honoring our value? But it's not something that we can command from other people unless we have demanded from ourselves honor our own value. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. That commandment is so true, but we often don't think about, I mean, it's true because obviously God, it's from our Lord, but it's not often discussed of how to love ourselves. To love ourselves is to honor our value and to will our highest good, which, if you think about it, I just went from this man asking you for protection from your husband, to knowing and understanding your self-worth. It boils, you can kind of reverse engineer in the importance of understanding your self-worth as a foundation to your relationship with your children, relationship in your marriage, your work. It's the foundation of your understanding of who your role as a woman is, understanding your God-given worth. It's not conditional. There's no price for it. But unless you're aware of that, you're not going to be able to expect it from other people. So I hope that serves you. If you're new to our community, and you want to be part of a small group of women that are growing together and holding people accountable every other week or twice a month to study ourselves, you can join our new Woman Masterclass if you're not yet quite a student. I know a lot of you here are students, so that we can create a culture where women are studying ourselves, studying our culture, studying the ways of the world, so we can then become contributors of truth, beauty, and goodness. Thank you. God bless you all.